How, for those of us that are very involved in the technology industry, how has our professional life changed over the past 12 to 18 months? How is it different? How do you perform your technology-related roles differently than perhaps has been the case previously? Carolyn, how about for you?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot more focus on, making sure that you have all the basics covered, rather than maybe looking at, new plans and new ideas and all that sort of thing. It's really been about focusing on, the core offerings, making sure that the quality is there, making sure that none of that stuff suffers. While maybe we don't have the budgets and all of that we used to have. So.
Do you feel that way as well? That it's more of it's a back to the basics sort of theme that pervades.
I think there's been some of that for me professionally, but I've also found that I have not been able, because of the budget cuts, I've not been able to outsource a lot of the work that I've typically had outsourced from a technology perspective. And I've actually been trying to learn some of the technology myself. So, for example, when I need to make changes to websites, rather than going out and hiring someone to do that, I've actually learned some of the HTML code myself. So I found, to try to save money for the company, but it also helps me in my job security.
I was just going to say that I agree with both Carol and Caroline. We found ourselves, especially professionally, especially with the budget cuts, doing a lot more things in-house and getting back to the core of our technology, as opposed to where we would be striving to get into research and development and try to penetrate the market with new ideas. We're kind of staying safe and making sure that our core values and our core products are really stable in this point.
Have you found relying on resources that are available online more apparent to you over the past year?
Most Absolutely. Definitely. I am digging deeper to find answers to questions than I used to.
Using what resources, George?
Video on how to correct a programming problem, or online forums where developers will come in and just type in solutions to issues that you're having.
Exactly, technical support. If you run into issues and instead of just going to a help desk or calling a provider or something, you're going online and you're searching to find out other, people like yourself who've run across these problems that have posted solutions for you. And then this way, it's a lot easier for me to do a quick fix than to try and sit there and go online to a provider and wait for a help desk support type thing. It's just easier.
Interesting. Carolyn, is that something that you're finding as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I always have been sort of do-it-yourself kind of fixer. I've always done a lot of online research. But the economic situation has only increased my use of the Internet to find solutions on my own, rather than maybe going to someone else for the solution.
Absolutely. Going through, say, a regular provider who says, click here and you'll get your support. From that point, they're going to go through a complete list of checklists from the very beginning, and it's going to take forever to actually get to my problem, my issue, and the solution to solve it. To where when I can find online these chat boards, people have run into very similar issues. They have very quick fixes of how they were able to get around it, and it's also in language that I can understand, so it's easy for me to do it.
For those of you from the more senior levels, are you also finding that peer-to-peer forums are of benefit to you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, I've probably never used them more than I have, not just from a technical perspective, but I think even just a networking perspective. I think you're finding more and more people getting on LinkedIn and using some of these resources, putting questions out there within the LinkedIn community to get answers to both technical and just professional advice.
I feel personally that, the Internet with the threads and everything, everyone was reluctant because it is such a wealth of information, and it might take a little while to rifle through things to get the exact answer you're looking for, because you can even search in the exact question that you're looking for and a million answers will pop up. But I'm finding more and more that people are willing to help each other, because with these times and everyone wants to do it themselves, as most of the consensus is here, that if we can provide something and put something up with our own experience that somebody else can use and build on, I feel like everyone's helping each other.
Michael just mentioned this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carolyn.
No, I was just going to say, I think as people are using the forums more, it makes the forums more reliable, and therefore you end up using them more because they work better the more people are on there. The better chances you're going to get a good answer.
How does the vendor community pushing forums, pushing self-help mechanisms alter, if at all, your perception of those suppliers?
I think it really depends on the vendor and how good of a job they do. So if it's easy to get to the vendor site and find the forum, and that there's really credible answers, and that it's not self-promotional, and then they're also trying not to find a way to, sell to you or to get you to upsell services, then I think it's fine. But I think these vendors who go out there and are doing those other things, I think it can cause a real problem, and people will just leave the vendor site and find some other community online for those answers.
My opinion on it is I'd rather go to an independent site than go to the vendor, because the vendor is going to give you his prescribed way of fixing it, which may not be the way that you want to do it in each case. With an individual site that's not tied to a particular vendor, you're going to get a workaround that may be easier or answer the questions that you're looking for more specifically.
The rest of you, where do you come down on either of those two comments?
I think that both Carol and George raised, very, positive. They're right with their answers. I don't think there is no wrong way. It's going to definitely be a preference. I think the vendors are getting more creative with how they're offering up solutions. Granted, that's not a method that I use, but I've looked to it quickly. For instance, I had an example where I had an issue with getting a gaming console online, and really quickly from the console it said that I can click on a button here and it would bring me to a big huge list of troubleshooting, a page of troubleshooting, and I didn't want to go through that huge list and find out where is my specific problem. But they also had an option of a call. So for the people that really aren't very technically savvy, they're being smart by offering multiple solutions. But for myself, like George was saying, going to that very independent, just an average person who's run into these issues, found solutions and posted them quickly. I like that method. But I think that these vendors are being smart with how they're offering up their solutions.
I think that that the vendor has a place not maybe in pushing the forums or hosting the forums themselves, but in having, being sort of, a super user of those forums and noticing when people are having issues that they might be able to help with. I think we've all had times where you're reading the answer to a solution and nobody's really coming up with it. Someone who works for the company comes in and says, actually, if you do this, it'll fix it. And that's very useful. And then there's the other times when somebody steps in from the company and says, oh, you're doing it wrong. If you use it in this way, your warranty is. They start, having sort of an attitude that you're trying to do a workaround without coming to their website. And I think that's where it's actually detrimental to the company. So I think they can sort of be a part of that circle in a positive way or in a negative way, and that really changes sort of the feeling that you end up with about the company and how they're really participating in that forum.
Thank you very much, Carolyn, George, and the two Michaels. Thank you ever so much. I'm very grateful.
You're welcome.
Very welcome.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Good seeing you.
You too.
Jim.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.